right. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hot Cakes and Hot Takes. I'm AJ, and below me, as always, well, hey, he's back this week. Boley, thanks for joining us this time.
Yeah, I figured I'd stop out, see how you guys are doing, contribute a little bit to this week's episode. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in there. And we got Basinski.
I'm doing great, Bully. It's a wonderful weekend of football. It was beautiful.
It's good to hear. Look, I don't really remember too many games this weekend, to be honest.
Just two, and they were good. They were both good games.
I forgot football was on.
Didn't even watch
Oh, I'm
it.
sure you did.
But all right, well, yeah, I guess we can just get going, hopping right into it. The first game, obviously, the one we all most care about. Green Bay Packers season fell short, 31-26 to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bully, how you feeling after this one? We don't want Zinky's opinion on this game at all.
That's the truth. To be honest, it didn't really hurt as bad as it used to. At this point, as a Packer fan, I'm so conditioned to this. It's not are they going to lose, it's how they are going to lose. You know it's going to be some kind of heartbreaking fashion. The entertaining part is just trying to figure out how it's going to happen. And yeah, this one was, from that standpoint, pretty fun, I guess you could say. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of the tale of two halves. I mean, in the first half, Brady and the Bucs just come out red hot. He's making all the throws. Kevin King obviously gets torched. He's the one kind of constant from the first half to the second half. Just never got going at all in this game whatsoever. But second half, I mean, they made Brady make some mistakes. He made some poor throws down the field. They were able to get turnovers, but then kind of in the fourth quarter, the offense stopped moving the ball like they had been in the second and third quarter. So kind of a tale of two halves, but ultimately that play at the end of the first half was that was the dagger. I mean, 14-10, Packers got the ball. They're driving. I mean, not driving, but getting their drive underway, get towards midfield, the interception, and then to give up that Hail Mary. I mean, yeah, you can blame King for that, but also I think a lot of that goes on Pettin. I can't fathom not having any safety help over the top on that one. I know they're trying to take away the possible first down and get closer for a field goal play, but I mean, give them the 3, don't give them 7, and that was just way too easy. Come out second half, turn it over. From there, down 28-10, and it's just not going to happen against that defense. You're not going to dig out of that hole.
Not at all. I agree with it, and yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, rightfully so, are giving King a lot of flack for this game. And he did play pretty bad, but that particular play, I really don't think it was his fault. I mean, you kind of have to be a little bit aware, especially if you know the defensive scheme that you have. But yeah, they definitely did not have any help over top. I know a lot of people are saying, what's he doing there? He's not even looking at the guy. But I don't think he was playing man. I think they were playing zone. So he wasn't. If he was playing man, he would have been looking right at the guy. He would have followed him stride for stride. Whether he would have kept up with him or made a play, obviously remains to be seen. But yeah, it certainly wasn't him entirely on that play. But yeah, it was a back and forth game kind of in the second half. I mean, I know the Bucs were really out in front the whole game, obviously, but just the fact that you thought the Packers would score off of one of those 3 picks. I mean, I think they did once, but the other 2, you're just kind of waiting for them to come back and take the lead because the momentum was shifting in their direction. They just couldn't capitalize. So certainly an uninspired performance, I think, by the defense, and just a lackluster performance by the offense in the late game there.
Yeah, and I think the Bakhtiari injury really kind of reared its head in this one. I mean, Wagner and Billy Turner were really struggling. I mean, when JPP at his age is blowing past you, that's not good. The guy's running like he just heard a firework. It's just that was a bad look. And I saw a stat: Rodgers took 25 sacks this year, 10 of them against the Bucs. So just something about this matchup, the Packers just couldn't figure out that defensive front from Tampa Bay.
And that's what I was going to say. That's what I was saying going into the game. That was my big takeaway is who will be able to get to the quarterback most, which D-line's going to be able to, make plays on third down or get him into, third and longs, and Tampa was able to do that with Rodgers for sure. He was having to make some great plays, and it just seemed like every third down opportunity Tampa had, it was always like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5, third and really manageable, and they were just picking the Packers apart in the first half, like you said. Just I think they made like they're 7 of 7 to start the game on 3rd down conversions, and at that point I'm like, yeah, we're in trouble. We're not slowing anybody down. We're not slowing any of them down. And I know even though Tom Brady threw 3 picks in the second half, I think you mentioned this during the game, Bully, but they were all like punts basically. I think besides the Darnell Savage one, I think that one we were kind of close to midfield when he got the pick, but both the Jair's were both inside our own 20-yard line, preventing them from scoring. So, I mean, yeah, it's a nice takeaway to stop them from scoring, but we still had to go the whole length of the field, so it's kind of hard. I know, the way the offense is rolling, you're hoping that, maybe we could take one of those back, but it's hard when you're starting deep in your own territory, especially as you said, against this defense. It's tough. Overall, it was a fun game to watch, don't get me wrong. Rodgers always found a way, like down 28-10. I think every Packer fan out there knew this. All right, Rodgers is going to get us back into this game somehow. But we have to talk about the big decision, kind of the big controversy that, that's been weighing everybody, is that 4th and 8. Out comes Mason Crosby. How'd you guys feel about that? That going for 3 instead of going for the touchdown there?
I mean, you can't really. There's not many people I can imagine would say they like that call. I mean, there's a kind of logical reason for going for a field goal there, just for the simple fact that if you go for it and you don't get it, you have to. I mean, obviously both ways you still have to score a touchdown, but if you were, you have to rely on the defense to stop them and then get the ball back and score a touchdown regardless. So if you kick the field goal there, you still have. Now, if you complete that task, you score a touchdown, it's game over. But overall, this is the playoffs. This is the NFC Championship game. You have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. You got to make plays to win the game. That was definitely not a play to win the game. That was let's hope we can get this done. You got to go for it. You have that opportunity at the 8-yard line, and I mean, they would have been backed up. And if they didn't get it, they would have been on their own 8-yard line. It would have been, I think, much easier to try to keep a team from getting a first down within 3 plays from that spot on the field, as opposed to the 25 like they did when they kicked it off after kicking that field goal. So you gotta win. You gotta play to win, and that was not a play to win.
Oh, there goes Bully's computer. Said he was glitching up before this, and there it goes.
There it goes. But yeah, I mean, well, how do you feel about it, AJ? Since we'll have to wait for Bully to get back on.
The analytics, I think, was the right play. I know, like you said, you want to.
I don't even know. I think the analytics.
It was because we had 3 timeouts.
Even if there was,
we had the 2-minute warning.
An advantage, it would have been like a 1% chance that they would have been able to. I think
it
wasn't a lot.
Oh, he's back.
Well, shout out to Google Chrome for trying to update on me now. I just can't get away from these updates. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I hated the call really from the start. I honestly was shocked. When I saw them coming out, like my jaw just dropped, and I was like, what? And the wheels are turning in my head. I'm like, wait, no, there's got to be a reason for this. But like, the more I thought of it, like, there just wasn't any logical explanation. I'm like, I don't know, maybe there's some crazy analytic that shows that's the way to go. Nope, they showed that. The percentage went way down once they tried a field goal. So I'm like, okay. I don't know how he comes up with this idea. But ultimately, like, it's hard to even harp on that, because even if the Packers do go for that, they somehow score a touchdown, they somehow get a 2-point conversion, the game's tied. Do we really think that they're going to be able to stop Tom Brady from getting down the field and kicking a field goal? Like, basically their only chance is that they miss a field goal, because I would have absolutely zero confidence in the pass defense to stop Tom Brady on that drive. So I think they were kind of screwed either way. And from that standpoint, like, I guess I could maybe see it, because by kicking the field goal and kicking it away, like, you're thinking they're probably going to try to run it twice to try to run the clock out.
Yep.
And then you just have one play that you got to stop Tom Brady, where he's not exactly in, 2-minute mode throwing every down. So I get that, because the run defense had been playing pretty well in this game. But even still, all they needed was one play, and Kevin King fucks up again and grabs the guy's jersey, which I know that's a big controversy as well. Honestly, I do think that was a penalty. However, they didn't call that really the entire game. Exactly. So from a player's perspective, it's hard, because the referees that kind of set the tone the entire game. Okay, this is how we're going to officiate this game. This is how we're going to allow you to play. And then when the game's on the line, you play how you've been playing all game long, and now they call it. So it is very frustrating.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what I was gonna try to get at, is that we kick the field goal, because either way we score a touchdown, don't get the 2, like somehow miss the 2. I mean, it would have been kind of in the same boat, except we only would have needed a field goal to win, except for a touchdown. So I think we were hoping that they would have ran, because our defense was actually shutting down the run most of the second half, which is pretty nice. I think Ronald Jones 10 for 16, Leonard Fournette 12 for 55, but 20 of those came on a nice TD scamper that he had. So I mean, we were actually holding the run down pretty well. So I think that's kind of what we were hoping for. But sure enough, it's Bruce Arians. He's just gonna go out there throwing, and I think that's kind of what we just needed to make a stop and couldn't. But I did like the Snacks Harrison offsides though after the 2-minute call to give them the first down. I just thought that was brilliant. But I mean, all for naught. Gave us a chance to save a timeout, give them the first down to try it again, but still couldn't do it. So we had a play, we had a chance.
That play was smart, and equally what was stupid was the Tampa Bay kick returner who just took a knee before the 2-minute warning. Like, literally just gave the Packers a free timeout. Like, all he had to do is run like 5 more yards, run a few more seconds off the clock, and there goes that 2-minute warning. So I said that at the time. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, you got to at least run it down to 2 minutes. But one thing I found kind of interesting, kind of in the aftermath after the game, is when LaFleur made that decision, like in that particular situation, when a team is down like 4 to 8 points inside 3 minutes, only one coach has ever kicked a field goal before.
Dan Quinn.
Guess who it was? Dan Quinn.
Gotta be. Let's go.
And guess who was on Dan Quinn's staff at the time?
Oh my goodness.
Matt LaFleur.
So they learned from the best.
Dan Quinn's tactics infiltrated the Packers, and we are so screwed.
Oh man, yeah, that was a rough one. Obviously, one big note that I want to bring up is Aaron Jones. He had an awful game. I think a game we needed him to step up most. I mean, he had 27 yards on 6 carries, which, I mean, looks good, but just nothing in the receiving game, and I think he's fumbled. Granted, the hit was nice to start the third quarter, but yeah, he fumbled a couple times where we got lucky, so awful game for him, and potentially his last game as a Packer. We'll see how the offseason goes, but just something to keep an eye on going forward. But we can move on to the next game with the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills by no surprise to anybody, 38-24. What did you guys take away from this game?
This was a good game through and through. I mean, the Bills jumped out to a 9-0 lead. You thought they may have had, a little step on them. Yeah, they're playing very well. They've been playing well for most of the year. Mahomes still has the turf toe injury. You think maybe it's just not their game. And then they turn it on, 21 points in 10 minutes, and they go into halftime, up 21-12 when they were down 9-0. So that to me is why I would never pick against the Chiefs in general whenever Patrick Mahomes is healthy and playing, because they are that explosive that they can just turn it around like that. I mean, they did it all last postseason. So why can't they do it again? And, once they got to, 21-9, they never looked back. It was never really within reach. I think, I think they extended their lead, in the third quarter, and then I think they got outscored by 2 in the fourth. So the Bills, they didn't play terribly, but it's going to have to take a, almost a perfect performance to be able to, shut down that offense for the Chiefs, which is an incredible task to try to take head on. But it's just the Chiefs are that good, and they can score in bunches and very, very fast.
Yeah, and I know you say, no surprise, AJ, but leading up in the week, I heard a lot of people kind of starting to lean towards the Bills, which I never really agreed with. I've been worried about the Bills' defense really all season long. I think their offense has carried them in a lot of games, and I just wasn't real confident they were going to be able to slow down the Chiefs' offense. But I mean, the key for this one really for me was the Chiefs secondary was able to slow down Stephon Diggs in a way that not many other teams have. I mean, in the first half, he had maybe one catch. He got a few catches kind of in garbage time in the fourth quarter, but they shut him down really all game long up until then. And that's a huge factor because he's their best weapon on offense. Aside from Stephon Diggs, they don't really have a whole lot. Devin Singletary did absolutely nothing in this game, which shouldn't be a huge surprise. He's been pretty shaky all season long. Cole Beasley had a decent game, but other than that, like they just didn't have anybody to get the ball to. You take Diggs out, and that offense completely changes.
Yeah, and it just shows the Kansas City weapons. I mean, McCole Hardman had a nice 50-yard run, even though he like fumbled the punt. I think that was him. He broke out, had a 50-yard run, set up that 3-yard touchdown pass to him, and then Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce again, both over 100 yards, both just dominating. They were just Bills couldn't shut him down, and it just Patrick Mahomes looked pretty good. You know, going into it, a lot of people were thinking, oh, he might not be able to run very much, but he was still able to move around the pocket pretty well and make some good throws. And so I thought he looked pretty good health-wise. Now he's got 2 weeks to heal up against Tampa, which that should be a fun matchup, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Want to point this out. That's what I predicted at the beginning of the season, this matchup, so props to me. Getting that one right.
It's good in the long term, not in the short weeks. Can't figure out that week's games, but he can figure out what happens to the end of the year. So
it's a big picture thinker.
Yep. But yeah, overall with this game, Bills look good. It's just that, you know, against Kansas City, and I mean you could say this against a couple like Tampa and Packers too, is you can't settle for field goals if you want to beat them. Buffalo had to kick 4 field goals. Granted, 2 of them were 51-yarders, so I mean they got into territory, but once they started settling for the field goals in the third quarter, you just knew they weren't going to keep up with Patrick Mahomes.
And even the second quarter, I think they had a pretty questionable field goal call towards the end of the first half, I want to say it was. And I know they're kind of like, okay, like we can't lose a ton of momentum by just coming up with nothing at the end of the half, but they were already down 2 scores at that point. Yeah. I think it was 21-9, and they kicked the field goal. And I'm like, you're still down 2 scores even with this field goal. Like, I know you don't want to lose all your momentum that you picked up on this drive, but you have to score a touchdown on that drive. I just thought that field goal was basically pointless. I mean, you're going into the half against the Chiefs, still down 2 scores. Like, you have to have zero confidence at that point.
Bully, one coach finally listened to us, though. He took the points.
I know, we've been railing on him. We've been railing on him all year long for not taking the points, but completely different situation. Sure. I mean, some of these other coaches are playing teams that they don't need to score 5 touchdowns against a beat. These guys are playing the Chiefs in the conference championship. They're going to need to put up a lot of points.
Yep. But that will do it for this. We got a nice Super Bowl matchup, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. We'll break that matchup down probably next week or so. But, yeah, two very good games on Sunday for sure. But now we're just going to switch gears a little bit. Now we got those 2 games underway. There's been a lot of quarterback controversy with a couple teams. And Phillip Rivers retiring to be number 1. Indianapolis is now looking for a new quarterback, maybe. Deshaun Watson probably wants to get out of Houston now. Where is he going to go? And Matt Stafford doesn't want to be a Detroit Lion anymore, so he's looking to part ways too. So we'll start with the Deshaun Watson. Go with him. Where do you guys think Deshaun Watson will be ending up playing beginning the 2021 season?
Well, I think realistically, from like a pieces standpoint where what team can match kind of what they're looking for and make it the most fair trade. I mean, there's a lot of people that are saying I've seen people saying the Vikings could potentially get him, and as much as I would love that, I don't think that there's any way that they're ever going to get Deshaun Watson. But realistically, like I said, to fit the pieces, I think the biggest or the easiest choice for me is the Dolphins, just because they can at least get a young quarterback in return if they wanted to. They could trade Tua for Deshaun Watson. So now, even though this is a bad situation for the Texans, they have no picks. They have, because they traded them all to the Dolphins. So one, they could give them their picks back, and they can give them Tua. If they like Tua enough, he's a young quarterback, obviously, and he has plenty of time to grow. So they can kind of make this a situation where, obviously you have a great quarterback in Deshaun Watson, but he clearly doesn't want to be there. So what's the best case scenario? Get yourself a younger quarterback and get your picks back from the awful trade that you sent to the Dolphins to get Laramie Tunsil and hasn't worked out in the first place. So you can get those picks back, get a young quarterback in the process, and now you can start your rebuild. So for me, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think Miami makes a ton of sense. Also, if you're just looking from each team's perspective, I think the Jets would make a ton of sense because the Texans just need draft capital at this point. Like, even if they're not getting a good young quarterback in return, it's going to take a few years to replenish this team. And I mean, the number 2 pick, they can do a lot with that. If they want to go and take a guy like Justin Fields and replace Watson right away, they can do that. Or if they want to trade that pick for more picks, that's probably a better route for them to go at this point. And then from the Jets' perspective, like, yeah, you'll be giving up on Justin Fields, but you're getting 100% known commodity in Deshaun Watson. So I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, they're probably going to have to give up more than just the number 2 pick, but to me, it would be well worth it. I've heard Watson potentially has been linked to the Panthers. He might kind of want to go there. He grew up in that area, obviously went to school at Clemson. I think that makes a lot of sense playing with Matt Rule. I think they could be pretty dangerous offensively, especially getting Christian McCaffrey. So I think those 2 spots are pretty good targets for him.
Yeah, I think I kind of like what Zinke said with the Dolphins. I would like that trade to, Watson for Tua. That swap would be pretty interesting, I think. But in all honesty, I don't think Tua's going to end up anywhere. I think he might have to hold out this season just because he just signed a, 4-year, 5-year extension for a big chunk of change. And with the salary cap now, I think it's going to go down a bit next year because of COVID. I don't know if any teams can afford it. And I think Deshaun's going to be asking for 4 first-round picks, I think is what was people were saying to get him. I just think it's going to be hard for any team to pony up that, or that even has the draft cap available that Houston's going to want to make this trade happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed in Houston for 1 more year.
Yeah, but the problem
is an option.
I think the problem is they just have zero leverage because
exactly.
He's made it extremely clear that he's not going to play for them. So yeah, he should be worth 4 first-round picks, but teams know that it can be such a dumpster fire if they don't move him that they're just not going to give him what he's worth. So it's a really good spot to be if you're trying to trade for him. But if you're trying to unload him, I just don't see them getting 4 first-round picks. So they're probably gonna have to take 2 and just be done with the situation, which sucks for them.
Yep, gonna be boned for quite some time. But we can move on to the next quarterback, Matt Stafford. Done with the Lions, doesn't want to be coached under Dan Campbell. That was an interesting hire. We can talk about that for another day. But where do we think Matt Stafford's best landing spot's going to be? A couple nice options out there for him, I think.
So the part that I find most interesting about this, it's already come out that the team and the player have mutually agreed to just part ways, which same exact concept. Why would the Lions ever allow that to get leaked out? Because now every single team knows they have to move him. Yep. So if you're trying to come in and trade for Matt Stafford, what are you even going to offer them at this point?
Yep.
Maybe 1 first-round pick, and that's it. Why would you offer them anything else? They've already said, we have to get rid of this guy. He doesn't want to play here. We want to let him move on. What? So if I don't trade for him, you're just going to cut him. Why am I going to come in and give you a ton? So I didn't really get that, but I'd say that the team that I'm hearing the most that he's linked to is the Colts, which makes a ton of sense. I mean, we saw they signed Rivers to a 1-year deal last year to try to go for it all. I could see them totally doing the same thing with Matt Stafford. And honestly, I think Matt Stafford is a pretty big upgrade over Phillip Rivers at this point in Rivers' career, how he was this year.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really huge for the Colts is the fact that they just always have big cap room, and I don't really know how they do it. They've got a lot of good pieces over there, but they still have a lot of cap room. So, for that aspect of it, financially, that makes sense, and they're one of the teams that can, take on his contract because it is a pretty big one for the last few years of his contract that he's on now. But I would agree with Boley. I think the Colts is probably where he's going to end up. I think the Niners have been, active in a lot of these, quarterbacks that are potentially moving, so they might get a play in just because if they can get healthy, they're just 1 year removed from the Super Bowl. They had a lot of injuries. If they bring all those guys back and they're healthy and getting Matt Stafford in there, they could be pushing for a Super Bowl too. So I think the Niners would also be a good fit for him, if they decide to try to go out and get him.
And could even be an interesting target for Watson if Houston felt strongly about Jimmy Garoppolo yet. Hey, we can get a bunch of capital and maybe try to build around Jimmy. wouldn't be the worst idea for them. I'm not sold on Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think many people are, but I don't know. Maybe they've got the front office guy from New England, so he might still be pretty high on Jimmy from his days there. So never know.
It will be interesting to see that. This just in, breaking news. Nobody has been elected into the MLB Hall of Fame this year. No one got the 75%.
Wow.
God, what a... I'll tell you, if there's one Hall of Fame process that's the worst, it's the Baseball Hall of Fame, 100%.
Yep.
I mean, I obviously know that there are extenuating circumstances, but I mean, this is the only league that the career leaders in hits and home runs. I mean, one, obviously no other sport has hits or home runs as the stat, but anyway, like two biggest stats in baseball, though, biggest, most career hits, most career home runs. Those two guys are not in the Hall of Fame, so that really doesn't tell you about the Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't really know what does. It'd be like football, like not having the guy with the most career touchdown passes in their Hall of Fame, just because he may have done something that the MLB didn't like. Pretty ridiculous in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just wild. Like I don't know if it's because everybody from the steroid era is finally kind of reaching that age where they would be elected, and their writers are just saying, no, I'm not going to do it. That's got to be part of it, because I'm looking at the players that got the most votes: Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Manny Ramirez is up there, Sammy Sosa, Andy Pettitte. Like, pretty much all of those guys have been linked to some sort of scandal or PEDs in their career. So that's got to be playing a big factor right now. But every year those guys kind of get more and more votes. So we're just waiting for the year where all those guys kind of get over the top here.
Well, yeah, and but the big thing with the Baseball Hall of Fame, again, which is a little bit different and wonky from the rest of the Hall of Fame, is you're on the ballot for 10 years. If you don't make it, you're never making it, which I think is kind of, I mean, unique, sure, but it just seems like I guess I get it. If you don't make it in the first 10 years, are you ever going to make it? But I don't know. The Baseball Hall of Fame has always baffled me in the way that they do things, and just, I don't know, just the absolute hiatus. Like Hank Aaron wasn't a unanimous selection. The first one was obviously Mariano Rivera a couple years ago. Like Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't a unanimous, just because there are people that, or Hank Aaron, people that just don't think that anybody should be a first ballot, so they just don't vote for him out of principle, which is just stupid.
Yep.
Yep. Not only do we have these unwritten rules on the field that are just absolutely stupid, but even the media has their own stupid little unwritten rules. They just can't get away from it. And they go, oh my God, how do we make baseball more popular? Go away. That's how we make it more popular. You're contributing to just ruining this game.
Yep.
Yep, that's for sure. But sorry, I just saw that pop up on my phone, so I thought I'd bring it up, and man, it's just real shitty for baseball. But real quick, flipping back over to the quarterbacks, one big name that people are real concerned about, maybe on the move, is he not on the move? Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people think he might be done in Green Bay. Everyone's worried that he's leaving town. He's mad because he doesn't know what his future holds. Pass it over to you guys. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers next year?
I mean, I've seen a few things about it. It's not going to happen this year for sure. He's going to be in Green Bay next year. There's no doubt about it. I would say that depending on how the next season goes, there is more of a possibility next year or after next season that they could trade him. Just because he still has 3 years on his contract. That's a lot to, kind of just leave, or leave out there. You got to at least try to win it, run it back. I mean, they got to the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. They're not going to get rid of him just because, they fell short in, a couple of areas, obviously, in that game. But it's just not feasible. He's going to be there. He was just displaying his frustration from that game. Everybody knows the Packers have probably played the better football game, and they didn't win. And he's been to 5 straight NFC Championship games now that he lost since they won the Super Bowl in 2011. So it's just a lot of frustration in that moment. He was just kind of tongue-in-cheek saying things that, frustrated probably because they didn't potentially go out and, draft any guys, going back to the draft anybody that can immediately help out A.J. Dillon played a little bit, but he, really only played at the end of the year. Jordan Love never played. Their third-round pick, Josiah DeGuara, I mean, he got hurt, but he probably wouldn't have been a huge factor in their team at all. So not even was it like not getting a receiver. It didn't get anybody to help on defense or, anything. They just didn't really upgrade at any position. So I think he was just a little frustrated.
And see, I don't even really think it was necessarily that. Like, I listened today on Pat McAfee's show, and he was just literally all I was saying is that there are literally no certainties in the NFL. He's like, I was thinking about guys like Aaron Jones, Corey Linsley, who are up for free agency, and like it kind of hit me like, hey, even myself, like you can't take for granted. Like they drafted a guy who will probably be my replacement last year. Like you never know. Like there are no certainties in the NFL. Like I fully expect to be back to this team. I think the way that I played, I would be surprised if they don't want me back. But at this point in my career, I'm not taking anything for granted. There are no certainties. So I think that's really all he meant by it. But of course, I mean, the media is going to blow everything out of proportion and always taking some kind of veiled shot at the Packers. And Mark Murphy had to come out today and say, we're not idiots. We're not moving on from Aaron Rodgers this year. And even last year, we talked about it as soon as they drafted Jordan Love. We said he's got at least 2 years because that's where all of his guaranteed money is. After 2 years from that move, if they were to move on from him, they'd take a lot less of a cap hit. So after next season, I definitely think it's possible if they are seeing some kind of development out of Jordan Love. Hard to say with this year with no preseason or anything like that. But no, he'll be back next year. People need to chill out.
Just wanted to calm the nerves for some people because everyone's like, "What? Aaron doesn't know his future? He's gone. What team would Aaron go to next?" And I was just like, "Oh boy, hold on. Relax. We'll get out of this. We'll have him for at least another couple more years before." I'm pretty sure this whole Jordan Love thing that we all expected was just gonna be the whole Aaron Rodgers experiment that we had with Brett Favre. We'll have him under our wings for a bit, and then once Aaron Rodgers is good and done or wants to move on after his next contract's up, then I think that's when we'll probably see. But I think we at least got maybe 2 more years of Aaron Rodgers left as a Packer. But he did bring up good points. Like I said, Aaron Jones, that's one I'm worried about. I think he might be gone, especially with Jamal Williams. He's also up for free agency, I think, but now we have A.J. Dillon. So I hope we re-sign one of those guys back. It'll be interesting to see what we do. Corey Linsley, I think, is the best tight end in the league. He deserves to get paid. I don't know how much our salary.
Wait, what?
Did you say Corey Linsley's up for free agency?
Yeah, he said tight end.
He's not tight end.
Oh, best center in the league. Sorry, best center in the league. But yeah, it's.
I thought it was a joke. I was waiting for the punchline.
Best center in the league. I don't know why I said tight end. I clearly thought I said center, but yeah, best center in the league. I think number 1 from PFF ratings all the way down. He's hands down one of the best, and so we got to re-sign him. Sure up that offensive line. Him, Elton Jenkins, and Bakhtiari obviously played a wonderful year, so we need to lock him up and move forward from there on. But other than that, I think that's all we got for you guys today. I know, Zinky, you got to get going to get bowling, so we can end the stream here.
Sure.
Just enough time for you.
One of those bowling nerds.
Did it well.
Yeah.
I try. I don't know if I'm a nerd. I just throw the ball, knock a few pins down. Maybe a little bit more than the average Joe. Yeah, and then that's the game I'm really good at.
But that's all we got for you guys today. So until next time, see you then.
Peace.
Bye.